Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to look at doing long division of decimals. So let's go ahead and get out a sheet of notebook paper if you don't have one out. And we're going to put our name at the top. So you go ahead and put your name. I'm going to write Mrs. Estera. Okay, and we're going to label our paper long division of decimals. So go ahead and write that at the top of your paper. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at the steps to doing long division. So step 1. The first thing we need to do is move the decimal point to the right so the divisor and remember, this is our outside number. When we're dividing, our divisor becomes a whole number. So whenever we're dividing, we want that divisor to be a whole number. Okay, so the way we do this is we multiply by powers of 10. So if I give you the example, if I have 7/10, and I want that to become a whole number, I'm going to multiply that by 10. And when I multiply that by 10, my decimal moves one place to the right, and that becomes 7. What about if I have the number 1500? Okay? Well, this time I need to move 2 decimal places, so I'm going to multiply this by 100. My decimal place would move 2 places to the right, and it would become 15. Alright, step 2. We need to move the decimal point for the dividend this time. Remember, this is the inside number. The same number of places as the divisor. Okay, so what this means is if I multiply my divisor by 10, I also need to multiply that dividend by 10. So whatever I do to that outside number, I also have to do to the inside number. So whatever I do to that divisor, I have to do to my dividend. Okay, and then step 3, we are now ready to divide. So we're going to divide first. Then we will multiply. Then we are going to subtract. And then we're going to bring down. So I remember this with a neat little saying, dad, mom, sister, brother. So we always want to do it in the order of dad, mom, sister, brother. Okay? Alright, let's do some practice. So go ahead and flip your page over. Okay? And let's look at our first problem. So let's try 39 9/10 divided by 7. Okay? So we have a whole number as our divisor right now, so we actually don't need to move our decimal. So I'm going to look at my dividend, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my decimal straight up. And I'm ready to do my first step. So my first step is divide. Can 7 go into 3? Well, we know that we cannot divide those, so we're going to put a 0. It's always good to go ahead and put your zeros so that you can keep track of your place values. Okay, so next we're going to look at our 39. Can 7 go into 39? Well, I know it can go in 5 times. So we're ready for multiply. So 7 times 5 is 35. Our next step is to subtract. So we're going to do 39 minus 35, which is 4. Okay, and our next step is to bring down. So now I'm ready to go back to my first step again. So I'm going to divide 7 into 49. And I know that 7 can go into 49 7 times. multiply. I have 7 times 7, which is 49. I'm ready to subtract, so 49 minus 49 is 0. And I have nothing to bring down, and I have no remainder, so my answer is 5 7/10. Okay, let's try another one. Alright, let's try to divide 85,000 divided by 3 4/10. Okay. So this time, I need to make sure I get that whole number for my divisor. So since I know I need to move my decimal place one time, I'm going to multiply that by 10. So let's do that over here to the side so you can see we have 10. Okay, well I have a 0, so I'm going to go ahead and put my place value, and I have 1 times 4, which is 4, 1 times 3, which is 3. And when I'm multiplying whatever decimal places I have in my problem, I'm going to move it the same. So I have 1 place in my problem, so I'm going to move it 1 place in my answer, and I get 34. So I need to move that decimal to make it 34. And remember, whatever I do to my divisor, I have to do to my dividend, so I'm going to move it over 1 place. And I'm going to bring it straight up so I don't lose that in my answer. So we are ready to divide. 34 into 0 cannot go into 0, so we put a 0. We have another 0. Now I want to see how many times 34 can go into 8, which is also 0 times. Now 34 into 85. I know it can go in 2 times, which is 68. Okay, so I'm ready to subtract. So 85 minus 68 is 17. Now I still have remainder, so I need to add a 0 up here, and I need to bring down my 0. And we're ready to see how many times 34 can go into 170, which is 5 times. So we're going to multiply 34 times 5, which is actually 170. Our next step is to subtract. So 170 minus 170 is 0. And we have nothing to bring down, so we have no remainder. So our answer is 25,000. I'm going to stop a second, and I would like you to put a smiley face in the right-hand corner of your paper. I'm actually not going to do this, so if you could go ahead and put a smiley face in the right-hand corner of your paper. Alright, and we're ready for number 3. So number 3, I have 19,000 divided by 3 8/10. So our first step, remember, is we want to get that divisor, okay, to be a whole number. So since I have 1 place, I'm going to multiply that by 10. And I'm going to move that 1 place. Whatever I do to my divisor, I also have to do to my dividend. So I'm going to move that 1 place and bring it straight up. 38 cannot go into 0, so we're going to put a 0. 38 cannot go into 0, so we're going to put another 0. 38 cannot go into 1, so we're going to put a 0. Now let's look at our 19. 38 can also not go into 19. Since we have nothing else to bring down, we're going to add a 0. And 38 goes into 195 times. So we're ready to multiply 38 times 5, which is 190. Ready to subtract, which is 0, and there's nothing to bring down. So our answer is 5,000. Alright, let's look at our next example. Okay, number 4. I have 2,724 divided by 600. This one's a little bit different. So this time we know that we need to move our decimal 2 places. So we're going to multiply are 600 times 100. Okay, so I have my 2 zeros, I have 6, and I know I need to go 2 places. So that's where my 6 comes from, so I'm going to move it 2 places. And I also need to do that on my dividend. So any whole number, the decimal's at the end, so I'm going to move it 2 places, and I can always add zeros here. Alright, we're ready to divide. 6 cannot go into 2, so we're going to put a 0. 6 goes into 27 4 times, so 6 times 4 is 24. If we subtract, that gives us 3. We're going to bring down our 2. 6 goes into 32 5 times, so 6 times 5 is 30. When we subtract, we get 2. We're going to bring down our 4. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 6 times 4 is 24. We're going to subtract and get 0. We're going to bring down our 0 because we want to use all those numbers. So 6 goes into 0 0 times. Bring down our other 0. And 6 goes into 0 0 times. So our answer is 45,400. Alright, let's look at another one. So our next example, let's try 4 divided by 25. So our first step is to divide. Well, 25 cannot go into 4, so I'm going to put a 0. And I actually need to add a decimal this time, so I'm going to add a decimal on the inside, and I'm going to bring that straight up. I'm going to add a 0. So 25 goes into 40 one time. 25 times 1 is 25. When I subtract, I get 15. I still have that remainder, so I need to add another 0. And I start my steps again. So 25 can go, bring down that 0. 25 can go into 150 6 times. Ready to multiply, so 25 times 6 is 150. When we subtract, we get 0, so our answer is 1600. Alright, let's try another one. Let's try 11 divided by 220. So 220 cannot go into 1. And 220 cannot go into 11. So remember, we need to add a decimal and bring it up. And we also need to add a 0. Well, 220 can also not go into 110, so we're going to add a 0 up here. And we're going to add another 0 to our problem. So we're ready to divide. 220 goes into 1,100 5 times. 220 times 5 is 1,100. When we subtract, we get 0, so our answer is 500. Alright, let's try one more. Let's try 5 1/10 divided by 85 hundredths. So we want to get that outside number, that divisor, to be a whole number. So we need to multiply this by 100. I'm just going to do it over here at the side. So I have my 2 zeros. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 8 is 8. Remember, there's 2 decimal places in my problem, so I'm going to move it 2 places in my answer, and I get 85. Whatever I do to that divisor, I also have to do the dividend, so I'm going to move it 2 places to the right and bring it straight up. 85 goes into 5 0 times. 85 goes into 51 0 times. 85 goes into 510 6 times, which is 510. When I subtract, I get 0. So our answer is 6. Great job today, everybody. I look forward to seeing you turn these in. Have a good afternoon.